I don't want to keep people too long. So let me quickly explain what today's session is going to be. So this is the overall writing question. How do we expand teacher empowerment, and why would we want to do so? And we're going to do a quick round of introductions. And then each speaker is going to have a chance to talk for a little bit. Then the panelists will respond to whatever they say. And then it's just going to be open Q&A. We're hoping to keep each person's time down to about like 12, 13 minutes so that you really get to hear from each person, and then you really get to interact and have a conversation. And then we'll have just a little bit of a moment at the end for closing. All right. Any questions there? Excellent.
What does empowerment mean to you? That's a question.
Ooh. Well, in that case, Tom, it looks like I get to introduce you as, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We're going to do the same for everybody. Tom?
Sure. I'm Tom Miller. I'm a former exceptional children's teacher turned charter school principal who has spent the last 10 years working either as a state consultant or an independent business owner, empowering teacher leaders and empowering principals to create the most impact on their community. I'm a father of two, and I love to just be outside, but it's way too cold today, but probably colder where George is, so I'm okay with that.
Oh,
but yeah. So thanks. I'm just really excited to be a part of the panel and to learn from everybody else.
Tamara, would you like to share?
Sure. Hi, my name's Tamara Rose, and I'm the Director of Professional Learning and Development with Springs Charter Schools. Springs Charter Schools is a large network of charter schools. We have about 17 site-based programs. We're all over Southern California and growing. And we serve homeschool families, hybrid, students in a hybrid program, and students in seat-based programs. And I have worked for Springs for 16 years. I was a homeschool parent with our charter school. I've served as a homeschool ES, and now I work in administration in our K-8 instructional support department and professional development. And I too love the great outdoors, even when it's cold. I enjoy skiing and snowshoeing, and I have two children. They're teenagers. They're testing everything that I knew about life, right, in these teenage years. And I'm just glad to be with you guys this morning.
Yay. George.
George Parker. I 30-year math teacher, retired, but I keep my certification together because I still teach. I go in about 3 or 4 times a month. Well, I was going in. I haven't done any virtual teaching yet, except for my grandkids. But to go in just to stay abreast of what's going on. I was former president of the DC Teachers Union. So teachers' voice has always been an important issue for me, even though I'm now much more broad thinking, I think, in terms of charter schools and teacher voice and everything else, because I think we have to educate our kids with many options about how we can get it done. For many kids who grew up like me, I grew up poor, and education was the only way out. So the quality of education that is provided to kids who have no other way out is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I'm Irene Salter. I am the principal superintendent at Chrysalis Charter School in California. I'm doing that half-time, and the other half-time, I'm a leadership coach and consultant for nonprofits and charter schools. And I have an amazing family with 2 wonderful kids, and we ended up at Chrysalis primarily because my son was looking for a school, and we found Chrysalis, and I could not have found a more like home, wonderful, perfect fit type of place for us. And that's why I love schools of choice is, every family can find the thing that fits them the best. Yeah. So this panel, again, we're going to have a chance for each of the speakers to share a little bit about their view of teacher empowerment, and then the panelists will respond, and then it's going to be open Q&A time. So definitely keep the chat active and let us know what questions arise for you, what insights come up, and we'll make sure to address them as we go through. Our first speaker is Tamara.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so for me, why should we empower teachers? Why should we work on building their capacity and expanding teacher empowerment? And for me, it's because when we do, they empower students. And that's what we're really all about, is empowering our learners. To illustrate this, I have a case study that I'd like to share. So I'd like to introduce you all to Tamara Boss. Tamara Boss is a veteran high school teacher at our Magnolia Student Center. And she was experiencing some challenges. Tamara had been teaching with Springs for 14 years. When she applied to our personalized learning certificate program, she really wanted to grow and she wanted to hold herself accountable for professional growth, but she had some challenges. And the PL cohort offered her the time and space to network with professional teachers, to gain access to specific resources and tools and strategies, and to challenge herself to grow in her teaching practice. And all of this was guided by her own action research. And what Tamara needed most was to make the fuzzy ideas about personalized learning concrete and something that she could really put into practice. So let Tamara share about that experience.
I am Tamara Boss. I have been teaching at River Springs Charter School at the Renaissance Railroad Academies in Illinois for 14 years. I really enjoy my time here at River Springs because it really challenges me as a teacher to meet the students where they're at. And we're very innovative with how we think about education and thinking outside the box and really try not to be stagnant in my teaching. I wanted to continue to grow, and this space allows me to do that. With personalized learning, I think that was sort of a buzzword that years ago came around when I was teaching. And I really wasn't sure exactly, like, how do you personalize learning? How can you do that in your classroom? And when I started to attend the personalized learning cohort, last year actually, there was a lot of pieces that I'd already implemented into my classroom, but it really started to revolutionize what was happening in my classroom with my students when these certain pieces were coming together. And so it really started with getting to know my students. And I was doing that, but to the extent of getting them to make that connection, to them understanding that the kinds of choices they'll be making with their assignments, that bridge for it was really important for me. So they take learning style inventories at the beginning of the year, and I have them do a number of different types of learnings. And it's a way to really constantly go back to what kind of learner they are, who they are, so I make those connections with them to help them make the right kinds of choices or help guide them as to the kinds of choices they're going to make in my classroom. And so when they're making choices in my classroom, it starts with the way that they're going to learn the material. It is very much transitioned from me being in front of the classroom and the kind of the stage on the stage where we've seen before to transitioning to much more student-centered. And that was a difficult transition for me, but when I saw that how much it helped the students and how much they actually started to grow, I was just sold onto the way to do it. But I was really trying to figure out ways to make it work in my classroom better and better. And I think through the PL cohort, I was able to start to bring some tools together and some resources together to make it work in my classroom.
Okay, so as you can see, joining the personalized learning cohort gave Tamara the tools that she needed to implement personalized learning in her classroom and empower her students. So what happens when we empower teachers with specific strategies, tools, and a network of growing professionals? Let's take a look. I'm going to show another video, but this time I want you to watch for how the students are empowered in their learning.
Hello, I'm Tamara Boss, and I'm a high school history social science teacher. So in the high school classroom, I've created ICANN tracking sheets in order for students to track their own mastery of ICANN. So the ICANN tracking sheets are a snapshot of where they are in the process of learning in ICANN or mastering ICANN. It lets a teacher, any administrator, anyone, even of course the student, know what ICANNs they have mastered and what ICANNs they still need to master. From there, we have pathways in our classroom that we use that allow students to have choice in how they're going to actually learn the ICANNs. From there, students are given lots of choices in how they can learn the material, but then an actual tracking sheet helps track whether they've mastered it or not, and they track it themselves. So within an ICANN pathway, I really think about not just the ICANN itself, but I look at the different ways that students might want to learn that material, search for different resources and different textbooks and different ways for the material to be presented to really present the information that will really connect with them. And then I get feedback from my students as to if there's anything missing, anything they have suggestions on, and I build those pieces into it. So it's a really evolves over the years and hopefully gets better and better as the years go by. They enjoy getting their folders when they come to my classroom. They enjoy meeting with me and pulling out their folders and their tracking sheets. And I even give them highlighters so they can highlight it in green when they've mastered their ICANN. The tracking sheet itself is a conversation piece that I constantly use as the center of my conversations with them, so we can constantly see where they are and what ICANN they have mastered and what ICANN they're continuing to work on and where they're at and if they're stuck anywhere. And if they are stuck, we can have a conversation also what's happening, what's going on, and really try to figure out what needs to occur in order for them to move past that.
So again, why do we empower teachers? Because empowered teachers empower students. Ask me about how to do that through empowered professional development. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tamara. George, Tom, is there anything you wanted to add to what Tamara had to say?
I definitely enjoyed listening to Tamara here because that to me is a clear example of empowering teachers in the classroom to be able to expand their ability to. There was something she said which I thought was very important, and the kids had an opportunity to determine how they were going to learn particular skills. I think that is so important in terms of differentiated instruction, definitely. But that is a form of teacher empowerment within the classroom. So I really enjoyed seeing that.
Tamara, I can't even tell you how similar your school is to mine in so many ways. That kind of teacher who has some control over what they're going to teach and how they're going to teach it, that rises all of the students up. And that's exactly what we do over at our school as well. And it's the thing that the teachers think is the favorite thing about working at Chrysalis is the ability to really control what happens in their room and respond to the immediate needs of each kid and make sure that that learning is personalized and empowered. So I just applaud you because it's really awesome.
Thank you.
So I just have one question, Tom. Now, are teachers also empowered outside of the classroom in this situation in terms of they're also engaged in terms of the decision making that goes on in terms of the schools, in terms of school policy and et cetera?
Right. Yes. Yeah. We've had several shifts in the last 5 years. We've shifted to mastery-based learning. And in that one shift, as an example, we formed committees for every part of that process. What are we going to need? And we had teachers sitting in every committee. So we're pretty committed to always including teachers and having their voice for each decision that we're making. And then the teachers that go through our personalized learning certificate program, they're definitely growing in their practices for students, right? For their learning and their networking, but we also see them as liaisons. So we have about 100 teachers now, which is a fifth of our population that we meet with regularly throughout the school year that we're able to leverage their voice. And we even have an advanced cohort that we call our gurus. And these are 17 individuals that we'll sit down with, and they keep it very real. So when we're meeting with them and talking with them, they're not polishing their words. They're telling us how it really is. And we talk through what barriers they're encountering, what challenges they're encountering. And we use all of that feedback to improve job satisfaction for our teachers, to make decisions. And we just really value the collaboration that we have with our teachers.
Mm-hmm. Could I ask you what I didn't hear it and it might have been said, so I apologize, but what's the demographic makeup of the kids?
We have a wide demographic. We serve, a lot of different socioeconomic areas. We're all the way through Chula Vista up to Inyo Kern Canyon or Kern Valley. And so, we're serving a wide, very diverse range. We've got high-end areas in Temecula, as well as very at-risk urban type areas in Hemet, San Jacinto area.
Are you finding that the personalized learning approach is equally effective with all of the demographics?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I will say, I didn't always work in a charter school. I actually started off in Jurupa Valley School District, which, the demographic there's a high population of migrant farm workers. There was some urban areas in that area, and they all fed into one school. And the difference between working in that district, in that school, and then coming to a charter school was the way that we're not only empowering teachers, but it's a part of our core values and our mission to empower families. So regardless of your demographic, regardless of who you are and where you come from, we are partnering with you. And we're going to do everything that we can to not only build our teachers' capacity and our students' empowerment, but we're building our families' capacity as well.
So we have a few minutes left for Tamara's section. So Alexandra has a question, Kathleen, Michael, Nadine, Nikki, if any of you have a question that you'd like to ask Tamara, please put it into the chat. Alexandra asks, where do you find the time to get input from the teachers?
We make the time. We put it into our annual calendar, and we meet with them at least 7 times a year. In a normal school year, we're meeting with them 7 times a year, and we're financially, we're hiring substitute teachers to go in and teach for them on those days, but we're pulling them together. So to answer that question, we make the time to actually meet with them. And then we also survey them regularly. So, teachers can sometimes get Google form fatigue, right? But we do actually survey them as well.
Great. Are there other questions out there? Tom, you posed a very interesting question. What does living an empowered life mean to you? I love that question. Yeah. Tamara, what do you think?
I think being able to do what you want to do. Just simply, when you are living in your life and you're not able to do what you want to do, then you don't feel empowered. You feel trapped. And so being able to have the resources and the tools and the ability to do what you want to do is an empowered life.
That's great. Love all of that intentionality. Nikki asks, how do you support and track the follow-up with decisions?
I think by following a cycle. So if we're asking questions and we're getting feedback and we're surveying, we're always, careful to go back. As we're implementing decisions, we might do different protocols like the principles and practices protocol, where we're pulling those same groups of teachers together and we're asking, okay, for example, with our mastery learning, we're implementing these non-negotiables of mastery learning. What does that look like in practice? What are the challenges and barriers that have come up? And how can we improve in this next iteration?
Beautiful. I think that actually is a perfect segue into Tom. Tom, would you like to share your thoughts and your presentation?
Yeah, thank you everybody for this opportunity. And going back to that question, I love your response, Tamara, about living an empowered life. It is about knowing that you can do, right? You can accomplish, and you're fully resourced in yourself to be able to do it. And so, our team, realized that we have a huge issue here in North Carolina, which is charter school leader turnover. And over the last 4 years, more than half of the charter schools have turned their principal over. And so what we realized well, gosh, well, who's actually still here? It's the teachers. And so we, started to think about, how do we build teacher leadership capacity? How do we help them, build that capacity in the school to help the principals out, to lead the initiatives? So we built this teacher leader academy. And when I think about what a teacher leader truly is, an empowered teacher leader, they know how to lead and influence outside of the four walls of their classroom, right? There's lots of teachers that can lead their class really well, but if you put them in charge of a school improvement initiative, it's probably going to be a silo work, right? They're just going to work really hard by themselves. So what we have done, and what we realized, is that these teachers did not understand the definition of leadership, and leadership is influence. So we built a program to really help them build their leadership capacity. So what I'm going to ask everybody is, if you got a piece of paper in front of you and a pen or a marker, I want you to draw a circle. Just draw a regular circle on your paper there. And so what we realized is that these teachers did not master the relationship compass. And I don't know if any of you have heard of a relationship compass. Go ahead and put it in the chat if you've ever heard that before. But in the middle of your circle, put a dot, okay? A dot in the middle of your circle. That's you in the middle of your relationship compass. Now, when I think about it, I don't know about you, George and Tamara and Irene, but the hardest person to lead in the world is me. I'm a full-time job when I'm trying to lead myself, right? It's a whole team just to get me where I'm supposed to be. So in the middle of your compass, you have to understand and really be able to answer the question, what I follow me? Like, am I demonstrating the characteristics and the qualities of effective leadership to be empowered? And for a big part of my life, I was not that real strong character person, and I didn't realize how much that was impacting me in my teacher leader goals. So that's where we start, right? We start with ourselves, and we teach the teachers through a DISC personality profile, how their personality impacts how they lead and how other people perceive them, right? We really focus on the person first. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to draw a line down, straight down. Now, this is what we call positional leadership. And this is when you are, given a title or a position to lead people. And I think the easiest way to explain it could be, I'm a dad of two. I've got a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old, right? I have been given authority in some title manner, right? Or maybe you're volunteering, or maybe this is where the teachers lead their students, okay? Or maybe even a principal assigns a teacher to lead something. This is positional leadership, and everybody, it's the lowest form of leadership, because anybody in that is just going to do the bottom line for you, right? They're not going to work above what they have to. They're just going to do what they've told, right? Hey, Matthew, it's bedtime. Why? Because I said so, because I'm your dad, right? That's positional leadership. So everybody needs to understand that. And so what we've realized is that the teachers, because I was given a title, did not understand that the only way for them to grow influence is to be able to learn how to lead across. So go ahead and draw a line across your circle. And this is called permission, right? This is when I've gained the permission to lead you, right? And to influence you. And this occurs through connecting with people. It occurs through adding value to people. When I'm around George, I just feel better. I don't know what it is about that George Parker, but every time I'm around him, I just feel better. So therefore, George can influence me because he has gained my permission. Now, when I was a principal, I didn't understand this. So then I would assign teachers to be mentors. And I think this is where we really have it wrong in education, everybody. You cannot assign mentorship. Mentorship is I'm asking your permission to mentor me. It's not, I'm assigning you a mentor, and now I have just, basically given you an authoritative position. And when I was the principal, I didn't realize I put my teacher of the year as the mentor, and all of a sudden, 60 to 90 days later, things were not going very well in our mentor-mentee program. And I didn't understand because I didn't know that this individual, even though they had gained the permission to lead their students, they had not gained the permission to lead mentees. Okay, so that's just one way. Another way might be that if someone's in charge of a training and the teacher goes up there and they're like, I'm not listening to this person because I know how they really are. Right? They may look the position, but they don't act it. Okay, because remember, leadership is more action than it is words. So now we're leading down and we're leading across. Now, maybe the most important part, and especially under COVID, everybody, is learning how to lead up. Okay? And when I've learned how to lead up, and this means that my principal or some sort of central office or whatever it may be is coming to me for advice. Right? They're coming to me to help to grow. And this is where we take our teacher leaders and we teach them how to lead effective meetings, how to coach other people, how to hire, right? In hiring process, because they're being asked to do these things, but they're not being equipped to be able to do it. And therefore, everybody rises to the level of their training, and it doesn't always work out that well. So when I have learned the permission, when I have gained permission to lead other people, and now I'm also gaining the influence of those above me, I have fully gone around my relationship compass. And so you may ask, why is it important that I gain the permission of others? Because at some point, teachers, you're going to be promoted, and you're going to have to learn and know how to lead people. And so you have to know that to be good in authority, you have to learn how to be good under authority. And that's a key part of the relationship compass. And I'm just going to end with this comment, Irene, is that for everybody needs to understand, to live a fully empowered life, you need to know that every room that you walk into, every person in that room, you're at some point of the compass with all of them. So some you might have their influence, and some you might not have any influence. But it's your job to be the influencer, to gain their permission to be able to lead them. So those are the things that we do to help empower teachers to improve their schools from the inside out and lead more than just the four walls of their classroom. So hopefully that was helpful. I wanted just to share something, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the relationship compass before, but really think on that. Everybody you meet, you're at some place in the room with each one of them.
Beautiful, Tom. George, Tamara, do you have things that you'd like to respond or ask?
Tom, I wrote down, I thought was an excellent question. Would I follow me? That's a great starting point that we all could ask ourselves. I like also that you said leadership is influence. Mm-hmm. And I think teacher leadership and teacher empowerment is important in order for teachers to have influence. And I like the idea of that influence both within the classroom and outside of the classroom. And I want to talk a little bit later on about outside of the classroom in terms of advocacy. But I love it. I'm sure your teachers loved you as a principal. Yeah.
I don't think so. I didn't learn all this until after, George. I learned the hard way because you bring up a great point. What got you here doesn't serve you anymore in your leadership role, right? So you could be a hardworking, achieving teacher, right? And then you get promoted to coach, but it doesn't mean you'll be a great coach unless you're trained and equipped to do so. And that's a mistake that we make in leadership. Is we used a Peter principle, right? Everybody's going to be promoted into a state of incompetence. Well, we can't do that. We've got to train teachers how to be leaders now at the very beginning, so that they do, rise up their own ladder and help to build other ladders, that they're ready to do it, because they're just not when they get to the top. And that's a big part of the, charter school leadership turnover. It's just the job is really hard. They're not principals, they're CEOs. But they're acting like principals, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah. I love the positional leadership piece, too, that position doesn't necessarily mean leadership, that people have to give you permission to lead them.
That's right.
That's a great statement. I love what you had there. Yeah.
I think that really connects to, things that are happening at Tamara's school and also with mine, that the teachers that have those innate leadership skills, the ones who know how to build those relationships, the innovations that they start spread throughout the entire school. I mean, they're the front runners. They try something new. That happened in my school with one teacher who did student-led conferences. She just read about it. She wanted to try it. She tried it out. She told the classroom below, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, how do I do that?" And then suddenly, because she had those relationships and she took that first step, it spread like wildfire through the rest of the school because everyone said and saw the impact that it made. And she never demanded that, this is what you need to do. And it wasn't ever top down. Like, you can't, like just what you said, you can't assign a mentor, but everybody else in the school chose her as the mentor for that thing because it worked and they wanted a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, isn't it amazing how we think about, when you think about the best teachers in your school, they're the best rapport, relationships. They're just so good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, then they get a title, and then they don't use that skill anymore. I'm like, no. You're here because you're amazing at relationships. Don't worry about all the hard skill stuff. Like, you'll learn that. Don't ever lose your ability to build rapport with people, because leadership is about doing things with other people and through other people, not by yourself in a silo. And that's, George, that's how I operated. But I learned the hard way, buddy. So thanks for bringing up a sore spot. I appreciate it.
Any questions from the folks that are attending?
Well, while they type questions, I'd like to make a comment. I just love that you're talking about the relationships and this relationship compass. And I know I've been doing professional development in our school for about 6 years now. And at first, I was so eager to teach and I felt passionate. And every year I get more and more removed because I realize the teachers are the magic makers. They're doing it. They have the relationships on the school sites, and to be able to empower them to actually lead professional development, lead the trainings, create workshops, share, network, have coffee talks, has been so fun. It's been just amazing to let go and watch them share their magic and network together. And it's been very productive.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks,
I'm not seeing any other questions right yet. Don't hesitate. Type it into the chat. We will make sure to get to it. I'm going to go ahead and launch into my little portion. And I think I want to expand upon exactly what Tamara and Tom were doing. Let's take it one more circle bigger. What if you had a school that was run by teachers? And that's what Chrysalis Charter School is like. We have a school where the teachers actually are they run the school, they run everything. And I, as the principal superintendent, I am their support. And we call ourselves a teacher-powered school. There's actually an entire teacher-powered school movement across the United States with several hundred schools that identify as teacher-powered, where the teachers actually have the decision-making capability to run the school. If you go on any Google search and you just search for teacher-powered school, it'll be the first thing that comes up. We kind of define what a teacher-powered school is as it's collaboratively designed and implemented by the teachers, and that the teachers have that collective autonomy to make the decisions that impact how the school runs and how it succeeds. The way that I see it is it's kind of this inverted triangle idea. So that the students are here at the top, and instead of the admin at the top, it's the students. And the teachers who are the closest to the students, they're the ones who know the students best and know what the students need. And therefore, they're the ones who could make the policy decisions. And by policy, we're talking everything from budget to salary schedules to the bell schedule, what curriculum to use, all of it. They hire me. I don't hire them. They evaluate me. They have the ability to fire me. And they evaluate each other. So I don't go into their classrooms to do classroom observations. I support them in doing peer evaluations. And in that way, it's really the teachers who are the center of the school. And me as admin, my role is to support them, to do all of those things that they need to be able to do their jobs and be successful and to make that school successful. It is a very different kind of a model, and not every decision is made by the teachers. We have a thing what we call our decision tree. This came from Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. Fabulous book if you've never seen it. But the idea is that there's some decisions that they call leaf decisions, which the teachers don't care about. And they tell me, hey, Irene, whenever something comes up with the bus or like the lunch tables or, school insurance, I don't care about that. You take care of it. That's a leaf decision. Other decisions like renewing our charter, that's a root decision. Everyone wants in, everyone needs to be at the table, everyone needs to converse and talk about it. And then branch decisions are ones where it's a committee run type of thing. And trunk decisions are either the committee or I kind of take the first draft, but then it comes back to the team to take a look at that draft and approve it before we take action on it. And in this model, this is how we ran through COVID. And I think that's why we were so successful at maneuvering our school through that whole process. Like what happened, we had just had a teacher meeting in early March. I communicated with everybody. In fact, it was the entire staff, all of our paras, all of our lunch staff, all of our office staff. We all sat down and I communicated to them, hey, this is where we're at. And this is what we're seeing countywide and nationwide. Nobody's closed yet, but it might be coming, right? Then March, I think it was March 15th, all of the other major districts decided to close. The governor was issuing some, orders about, how to keep everybody safe, and every other major district closed. So I got, I think, 7 out of the 12 teachers on the phone just right then. And I say, hey, what do you want to do? And because they were involved in that decision making and because they had a say, they all said, you know what, let's stay open one more day and then we'll close on Tuesday. And so that's what we did. And by Tuesday morning, because they had a say, they actually were the ones who said, okay, we're all going to make packets and we're going to send them home at noon on Tuesday so that the kids on that first day we close, that everybody is ready to go and has learning to start off that very first day of closure. And that they were so close to their students that they knew what to do. And that's how we navigated through this entire thing, is this constant communication. And whereas other schools had problems with, their teachers saying, well, this isn't safe and we don't want to come to work, our teachers had a say and they could decide. And if anybody on our team said, no, I don't want to go and I don't feel this is safe, we stopped and we talked it through until everybody on the team was part of that decision. We run it very much like a family. And getting to the why teacher empowerment is important, I'm going to show this data. This is from a research study, and it asks teachers at Teacher-Powered schools what they think. The teachers at the school like being here. I would describe us as a satisfied group. When you look at those, like green and blue, are strongly agree or somewhat agree. I like the way things are run at this school. And I enjoy teaching at the school more than any other. So the teacher satisfaction that you get, the retention, is amazing. The other thing is that it also improves achievement. So this same study, which was looking at multiple teacher-powered schools, found an 11% increase in math achievement and a 20% increase in ELA achievement for schools that were run where the teachers had a say. And it mirrors a lot of the leadership research that, for those of you who are in software, you've heard about agile software development. And what that idea is that the decision-making needs to be as close to the people that are closest to the challenge as possible. So you have to empower the people that are closest to the challenge to take the initiative to solve it or to form teams to solve it. And so that kind of idea, it's all over in the business world. It's something that needs to come into the education world. And there's also research that shows that control and voice are huge factors in productivity and motivation, that people will stay not for the paycheck, but because of the passion, if they have control and voice. So if you're interested, the Teacher-Powered Schools website has these two things that you can download. This is called Teacher-Powered Practices, and this is a guide for collaborative leadership. And both of these guides are free to download. It gives you lots of different questions to start with and a resource from which you can kind of draw from in order to find out more. Okay. Oh my gosh, you're from Escuela Verde? We've heard about you. I know Nikki, we totally have to connect afterwards. Actually, here, I'll put it in the chat, but these are my contact information if anybody wants to reach out to me. My email, my website, but also I have a calendar link, and I'll put it in the chat so that you can grab it. All right, well, that was my piece. Tom, George, Tamara, do you want to reflect on any of that?
When you are selecting teachers for your for Teacher-Powered schools, are there any specific characteristics that you're looking at?
We ask them what they think Teacher-Powered means. We are definitely looking for somebody who is collaborative, who fits the mission and vision of what we do and how we do it. And we're looking for somebody who wants to stay, who feel like it's not as much about their experience level. We love taking brand new teachers because for them coming into our network, we can draw their skills and build those up. But if they don't know how to collaborate and know how to be part of a team, then that becomes really hard for them.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the most difficult challenge in terms of Teacher-Powered schools?
One of the most difficult challenges actually goes to Kathleen's question. What do you do with a poor teacher? Because the teachers feel like a family. It's really hard for families sometimes to tell other people what they think. So one of the hardest things we have to do is to train the teachers how to have difficult conversations with one another and how to do that in a trusting, caring way. And so that kind of, decision, that fireable decision, those are ones that we have to work really hard at to develop within the team. But then there are times where the teachers will come to me and say, I just don't feel comfortable. I need you to go and talk to that person about it. And I will. And by me bringing it up, we have a process that we worked on over the years about how to work with the staff so that if a one-on-one conversation direct doesn't help, then I come in and we create a professional development plan. And then if that doesn't work, it goes to the co-op. And we do what's called collective wisdom, so that when we go to all of the teachers and that cooperative, we sit down and we say, we know all of us will struggle. We know all of us have a growth mindset. How can we as a team support you in really trying to tackle this problem? And when that doesn't work, that's when we would have to, say we're not going to renew contract. I hope that answers your question, Kathleen. But yeah, that is the most difficult thing, George. Vivian, the interview process, we do a first round interview just to kind of ask questions. The second round interview, they do a teaching observation so that we can see them in the classroom and see what they're like with students as well. And you also asked how many teachers and students. We have 12 full-time teachers, 2 part-time teachers, 230 students, and about half of them are free and reduced lunch.
What do you
Irene, I'm working with a couple of schools. I'm sorry. Go ahead, George.
Go ahead.
I'm working with a couple of schools that use a shared leadership model. And it's interesting to see the challenges that they sometimes have with their school culture, because if they don't have a strong, decision maker at the top who can kind of bring all the information and go, I see they just feel like they're just running in circles. Good schools, but have a hard time getting to a great school because they just can't get over that. Well, who makes the final decision? Or what teachers should be involved with every decision. So how do you work through that if you've got a school with really strong, empowered teachers, but can't get over the goal line?
The administrator's key role at our school in particular is to keep everybody aimed at the same mission. So that mission has got to be strong. It's got to be a shared vision. And so if you have that, and you have a leader who can keep everyone directed, eyes on the prize, here we go, this is what we're aiming for, and this is everybody buying into it, that really helps. And I too have seen, when I first came to Chrysalis, there was a bit of that spinning wheel, that not everybody was working towards the same goal. And it took time to develop that. I don't want to cut too far into George's time. So I want to give George a chance to share what he does, because he's taken it even farther than a school. He's taken it out into the world. So George, want to take it away?
Okay. Wow, this is some great information. I've written down a lot of things here today, which I think are great. I want to talk about it. It's all a part of teacher empowerment. I want to talk about teacher empowerment outside of the classroom and the importance of it outside of the classroom as well. I think one of the things that the pandemic has brought to light, and that is the need for change in many of our traditional public school systems, for sure. It has brought to light our limit in terms of our ability to address outside forces when outside forces come into the educational process. I think that as a result of COVID, there are going to be a lot of policymakers looking at how do you move education, public education, into the next phase. I think it's going to be critically important that teachers are empowered outside of the classroom to have a voice in those policymaking decisions, because what I found in my experience as a teacher and as a union leader, particularly, was the teacher voice is very often the smallest voice in the decision making process. Yet the teacher voice is the voice that actually knows, for lack of a better word, the patient better, right? It's similar to if I'm going to the doctor, I don't want someone who hasn't examined me writing the prescription. Right? So it's the similar in terms of teachers are there with the kids every day. They have some valuable knowledge and information that can inform decisions. So I think that empowerment is important. But the reality is there are a lot of policymakers who make decisions about education from a political lens as opposed to an educational lens. I think that teachers are probably the most trusted stakeholder in the whole educational atmosphere, but they are the least active. What I've found in terms of policy decisions, statewide, local, boards of educations, and et cetera, is that for the changes that are going to have to take place with education in the future, if we're going to get it right, teachers' voices are going to have to be heard substantially, which means teachers are going to have to become their own advocates, right? I used to have the responsibility of testifying before state legislators. As a matter of fact, Tom, I testified before the Education Committee in North Carolina. But one of the things that I find missing, even in going around and doing those testimonies in front of state legislatures, is the teacher voice. The most informed voice about where we need to go with our children is the one that's missing most. With new changes that are coming in education, and COVID has brought about the need for change. We have to get introduced to virtual learning and et cetera. Teachers' voices are so important in getting it right. I think one of the keys is how do we um, get teachers trained in a manner that they know how to advocate for themselves, especially on the local levels, at school board decisions and at the state level, not just the national level, because teachers are trusted very much. When I used to testify in front of state legislators, I began to realize, you know what, I need teachers coming with me, because that teacher's voice is the one that they listen to the most, because that's the most trusted one. When I went in as a union leader, it's like, well, he's political. So half of what he says, he has a goal, he has the objective. When the teachers are there testifying, they know that the teacher's number one concern is about how can I be successful with our kids. So I think getting teacher advocacy and getting teachers to begin to step outside of the classroom to understand that they have to also impact policy decisions that affect their work as well. From testing, standardized testing, whatever it is, teacher evaluation, what kind of policies should be in place in terms of teacher retention, teacher terminations, those kind of things. Teachers need to be available, need to know how to advocate for what they need with policymakers. And so that's the one thing that I think we need to grow in and add as a big component of teacher empowerment. And that is, we teachers can be very effective in influencing the decision makers who are not in the classroom every day, who are not at the local school every day. And I think that this opportunity that has arisen as a result of COVID, where there is a lot of notice now from parents and everyone else that are concerned about how do we get our kids educated effectively, it's an opportunity for us to correct some of the mistakes that we have made in terms of educating children. But teachers need to be a leading voice in that, because survey after survey shows that teachers are still trusted by the community. They're still trusted by parents. And so, in legislators, technically. So I think that we have to get teachers, not just within the classroom, but outside of the classroom, to begin to take an active voice and advocacy for the kind of policies and decisions that teachers need to be implemented in order for them to be more effective in the classroom. And I'll stop right there.
Tom, Tamara, what are your thoughts? I personally love the idea that teachers need to get their voices heard, and we can't always just rely on a union or our, legislative reps to be able to do that for us.
Great point. And I want to make this point. A lot of people make the mistake of lumping teachers with their unions as one. That's not the case. Even in my union, that was not the case. Unions are technically more political organizations now. They've become more political than they are in terms of empowering teachers. And so teachers have to empower themselves. Of course, as union leaders, you're dealing with working conditions and things like that. But in terms of empowering policies and decision makings, that advocacy on the part of a teacher and teachers participating in their own advocacy is going to be so much more effective and so much more impressive.
Yeah, George, I love what you shared about, one, making sure that we're, getting the information as close to the action as possible. I think that is a critical, step for any leader at any level. And two, I would agree. There was a few years ago that we were trying to get some local funding laws, changed, and the legislation would, definitely listen to a teacher way before they would listen to me, right? Because I was, acting as a lobbyist almost in a sense, and it really, it's also part of the Teacher Leader Academy. We teach, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach. I take John Maxwell's, lessons of how to connect from the stage, and I teach that, to them. It's like, you all need to be the advocates for this profession. It can't always be us on the outside, because they're not going to listen to us. They think we have an agenda. So the more that we can influence and teach and equip teachers how to be advocates, not only in their own schools, but in their districts, wherever it may be, is just a really important point. So thanks for that. And going back to the classroom, right? I mean, that was Tamara's, piece. We have to empower. This starts at, 5 years old, right? We have to start to teach little, kids, little, young adults how to advocate for themselves. And because under COVID, this is one of the biggest parts of why the education is really lacking in a lot of districts and charter schools, is because kids aren't advocating for their needs.
Right.
They can't. They don't know how.
Yep. We have our theme this year, or superheroes theme throughout our school. And our hashtag from our professional development is know my name, know my face, know my story. And I think sometimes wanting to have influence or impact, political leaders, decision making, it can feel big and it can feel, new, and how do I do that? And I really think that it comes down to knowing my name, knowing my face, knowing my story, and giving our teachers that time and space to be able to share their story is sometimes the game changer.
Yeah.
Does anybody in our audience have any other final questions for any of us? We're so thankful that all of you chose to join us this morning. I know that life is so busy and so hectic and crazy in schools right now. So take this moment as a self-care moment. Ask your questions. Let us know how we can help you.
Someone said, good leaders ask great questions, right, George?
Yeah. Yeah.
I must say that the thing that I'm definitely taking away is just how similar that message that all of us shared, that we need to give the power to the people who are closest to the problem. That to me seems like that overarching theme. I don't know if any of you drew a different one out, but that was the one that struck me today.